everybody. I am here talking about today's tarot reading. It's our reading for Wednesday and Thursday of this week. I don't know, we're like in the first week of February, I think. I still don't have a calendar. I'm like out there. I was gonna say something real. I'm out there raw dogging it without the calendar. This is so inappropriate. Like, we're supposed to be doing spiritual things. I'm gonna talk about Jesus, and I like segued in with raw dogging. So I don't know. You heard it here first, folks. Yeah. So we pulled the Star card, which I really loved because I feel like there's so much healing going on right now, and there's been a lot of feelings happening and a lot of reflecting and a lot of inner work, and we're like reintegrating things, and it's like, okay, we're dumping off all of this, like we're like cleaning our hard drive, we're dumping off all those like faulty operating systems, and now it's like we're sort of like running through the updates, and we're like having to like restart and like turn off and restart and turn off and restart. So that's why we're just feeling so like weird and out of sorts, and like sometimes just stepping into that blank slate. It's so crazy. You know, we're talking about finally when you're not being pushed or pulled, and you're not being reactive and you're being proactive. It's like that's the first time that you're really able to like really exercise your free choice and make a decision that counts, that you actually made through your consciousness, not like your subconscious drive that you're not aware of. So very exciting things coming on. Very exciting with the healing card. I thought I just had to work with the Quantum Tarot deck today. When it was time to choose the deck, it just was really calling to me, and I just felt that it was important to read their description and like whatever they related it to in physics. The Quantum Tarot deck is really awesome if you're into like physics and you're more of a sciencey person, and that's the kind of like language you connect to most. This is a really good deck for that kind of type. But so in this week I'd started just to think like, yeah, it's the star is a symbol of hope and healing, but I was like, I feel like there's more here than that. And when I went to set up my photo with the card, I got into like these old antique astronomy books that I have, and I noticed that I randomly opened to the same like sampling of stars, like the same portion of sky in both of the books, like both of it. It was just like, I just read first thing that I opened to, and I was like, oh, holy shit, that's so weird. And I don't know whether it was just because of the specific stars that they were pointing out, or whether it's because the copyrights of these books were so far apart that they weren't able to see all the stars that they could see, at that time, because they didn't have the instruments to see it. So I just thought, wow, like healing and insight, it does kind of like, once your eyes adjust to the darkness, it takes a while, but like over time more is revealed. It's not that it wasn't there, but it's just that we didn't have the capacity, we didn't have the instrument, we didn't have the ability to see what was hidden in the situation, sometimes until time has passed. But I also had this image of the fact that like the star is suspended in darkness, in dark space. Like, we are surrounded by darkness in this 3D world all the time, and it always feels like it threatens to engulf us. But the reality is that it doesn't engulf us. Like, not even dark matter that's pushing up against us. It's like the only thing that can really engulf space itself is when a star collapses in under the weight of its own pressure and becomes a black hole, and then sucks in all the light around it. And I just thought, oh, that's so interesting that even within our own heart, it's like all of these outer circumstances that threaten us, I mean, yeah, in the 3D level, they're real, but really, like, they can change the moment our perception and our vibration changes. It's like that movie Inception. It's like with the moment we can up level our consciousness, like the whole like avatar shifts and changes. And I don't know if you guys ever saw The Adjustment Bureau. That was a super cool movie. It was like, there was like this whole like company of agents that would go behind the scenes and try to like, you know, like move the parts and pieces of life to like get these people to like cross paths and make up for their mistakes and all this stuff. So it's kind of reminded me of that. But yeah, so even though like the darkness threatens to engulf us, really, you know, whatever the outer circumstances, if we shift our perception, it's a completely different experience. And I mean, I've run the gamut of different experiences within different states of consciousness, and I can tell you from experience that my consciousness completely informs my experience. It doesn't matter if the same thing is happening to me that it happened before. It doesn't feel the same because I see it in a different way, you know? And it's like you start seeing things in a different way. But yeah, unless you let yourself go darker and darker and darker without transmuting it, meaning you keep wallowing in sorrow without letting it like awaken you. And it's such a fine line, you know, when you go deep into that subconscious and all those feelings to try to heal them and explore them. It's you know, it can be really painful, and it's an art and it's a dance of allowing these feelings to come, feeling them, but not clinging in the way that you're like clinging to that same old story. You're trying to learn something new about it, and you're trying to learn to be more open to any information that experience can teach you. Yeah, and so and also the light, it's like the darkness doesn't really, like, you can light up the dark, but you can't dark the light. The only way that darkness can affect light is in a really superficial way. Like, it never affects the source of the light. The source of the light emanates in eternal perpetuation, unconditional love, eternal like beingness, just the perpetual state of being. So that light from that star is just always coming, right? But the only thing that can happen to change that, the only way that darkness has control, is if it just simply like obstructs it. Like, it's something that gets in between you and that source, right? So if we remove what is like creating these shells that are blocking us from the source of this light, the more the light can get in. But yeah, so the darkness that surrounds us, it doesn't threaten to engulf us. It can only have as much effect on us as we will invite it to, or allow it, or accept, or fight against it. You know, it's like it's better to just surrender to the circumstance, accept that it has already happened. Like, I can't remember, there was Eckhart Tolle, I think, that talks about it, but it's like, okay, if you're in a situation, like, and you're in the present moment, and you're presented with something that brings you discomfort, or it's, like, not a desirable situation to be in, it's like you either have to do something about it to change it, or accept the fact that there's nothing you can do and stop suffering, and just at least relieve yourself of the argument that, like, it shouldn't be this way. Like, you know what I mean? If you're just like, whatever, it is what it is, you know, that's, how different is that? It shouldn't be this way. It is what it is. Like, who's getting the ulcer, you know? So, star card. What else? There was a few things that I wanted to talk about. Oh yeah, that like only the star can collapse in on itself and drag you down that way, just by you imploding, you know, an emotional imploding in and of itself. Oh, I wanted to also say that, you know, healing, the light is surrounded by all this darkness, and if you are in a spiritual awakening for the first time, it has also been referred to as the dark night of the soul, or a divine storm, when like major events quake and shake every, you know, sense of security that you had, and you're feeling the most like isolated and banished and just in the void, in the abyss of like just all the feelings. And it is such a dark and painful time, and that's that moment where like even Christ was like, why hast thou forsaken me? Like, you just feel so forsaken, and you feel like really in that darkness. that time is so painful, and you almost feel like it's going to completely engulf you, and then like it will never end, but it will end. And it's just the process that needs to happen in order to get you to the other side of it all, to really burn it to ash so that you can like rise up again. And that that pain, it feels like you don't want to surrender to it because you're afraid that it's the kind of pain that's going to shut your heart down even more. But it's weird how it's the reverse when you open up to that pain and you let it melt away all those layers of like perceptions, truths that don't serve you, truths that you cling to, that you've chosen to believe, that don't necessarily have to be the truth for you anymore. Like if you allow that pain to like melt those things down and away, you're revealing more light. You're exposing yourself more to light that's coming in. But also, I'm almost losing that thought. Oh yeah, so it doesn't shut your heart down, but it like breaks it open. And then you have even more understanding of not only your own self and your motivations, but you really start to understand other people better, or you can imagine like something from their perspective in a more compassionate way. It just opens you up, and it opens you up to all this information, because I think that the heart is a portal of time and space, and it's like this like mystical stargate. I really do. And I also had this dream once. It was one of those dreams where you remember it forever because it was so vivid and impactful. But when I dreamed that I was out in space, and I was in deep space, like maybe even in another galaxy, and I was sitting on an asteroid looking at this blue, like white hot blue star, almost like this one, like that color. It had like a blue aura around it. And I was sitting on this asteroid looking at this star, and I have this creature, this being that is like this presence next to me, and I'm like, that's God. And it was kind of more of a masculine energy, but it was not a disembodied, it was more abstract. Like there was a form and I could feel a being there, but it wasn't like too personified. Like, cause I knew it wasn't Jesus. Like Jesus would have been recognizable, but this was like more like God. And God was there hanging out with me, and you know, it was just like this telepathic sort of like good old times, like love it when we can get together like this. And God was like, this is the star inside your heart. And I was like, oh wow. And it wasn't like, this is the star inside of the heart of humanity. It was like, this is the star inside of your heart. Like this is your star. And I do think that we have a star inside of our heart. As weird as that sounds, I think that because the heart is this energy center and this information processor and this like portal of time and space, like I think that you can like actually go deep in through like this like portal into the depths, but you're like all the way back out in the expansiveness again of space, because like we're just, space is inside of us, we're inside of space. Like in the Gospel of Mary, even like, you know, when Jesus is talking about the nature of matter, he's talking about how like everything that exists in everything else. Like we're all like this casserole of stuff that's like, I like to, there's like a bunch of like little verses that I fused together. I don't know where they come from, different places, but it's like, I am my beloved's and he is mine, his banner over me is love. And to me that means like all of the stuff that makes us is like perpetuating through everything. There's like this, it's like the force, like it's emanating from everywhere in different little like hues and signatures, you know, but it's expressed in all these unique ways. And so the star inside your heart, so I wanted to cover that. Oh, I also wanted to say, so we talked about how, so the awakening, the divine storm, that dark night of the soul, like it will get better and better, and it will actually open you up, and you will be reborn, and you will be renewed, and then you will be like that much stronger, that much more like, oh wow, like transcendent, because you're like, well, I went through all this, and I really like, now I really get it. And yeah, look at it totally different. And it's just like, you'll like have a new experience of life. You'll have a new lease on life, because you'll see it all differently, and you'll experience it all differently. I also had recently pulled some of the Loving Words from Jesus cards, which is an oracle deck that has like Jesus's own words, like the lines that he said in the New Testament. And I had pulled, blessed are they that hear the word of God and keep it. And it's really easy to read that and like kind of like one of those like party pooper stern kind of ways, like blessed art thou, like hear the word of God and keep it, like be obedient, like do what you're supposed to. And I'm sorry, it's just like the God that I have and like the Jesus that I know, like we're more like having a house party or like chilling like low key and hanging and like talking about philosophy. And like I feel like this other Jesus that exists for other people is more like country club Jesus, like buttoned up, like, you know, I don't know, it's just, I don't know. But for me, like that, this can have that vibe, like that whole like do or should, you know. But the other day I read it in a totally different way for the first time. Blessed are they that hear the word of God and keep it. And to me it meant like when you get those little winks from a divine source, those little signs, those little omens that you pick up, that message that someone innocently gives you that they don't even realize, or like something that stands out in a show you're watching and you're like, oh my God, like are they talking to me right now? Those moments, the rainbows, the shooting stars, like those are so inspiring in that one moment, and you're like, oh my God, there is a God, and there's angels, and they see me, and they're here right now, I know it. And then like 3 minutes later, you're like, life has like crushed your spirit again. And I think it's saying like, hold on to those rainbows, those moments of hope, those promises that things are turning around, like good things are on the way. It's so easy to like let that go and have all your faith in that gloom and doom on the horizon. Like when's the rug getting pulled out? Like this is too good to be true. Like we have so much certainty and faith that it's all gonna go to shit. And it's so hard for us to accept that it might not. It might not go to shit. It might actually be okay. It might be better than we think it will. But yeah, I wanted to pull one more card from Mary, Mother of Angels. See what Jesus's mom's gonna tell us. If she were here, she's gonna chime in. What does she have to say? Trust. I knew. I was like, you know what? It's this trust is the only card that ever comes out of this deck, and I think that it came out on another reading for us too. That's so funny. I know that God, in His infinite wisdom and love, is answering my prayers right now. So don't worry, like everything's working out. No matter what like life is showing you, it's really just like pretend like you're in a video game, and at every level that you get to, there's gonna be like little challenges and little obstacles and like little, you know, little, not tricks, but games. It's a game. Life is a game. And what if like you didn't really think you were going to hell? You know, like what would you loosen up some? Even like if you, like so many people are like, I don't believe in hell, but like they have so much rage and like hate for like their parents and the church they grew up in, and it's like, well, like it's still having so much of an effect on you, like that it has all this power over you even though you don't believe in it. So it's just like, that's why we have to just like let go, release, trust, like things are playing out, and like there is a force that we can wield. Like, oh, I thought about it the other day. Oh my God. Okay, so remember how we were talking about how we are above the angels because we have free will, and we have like, we're not a one track. Like we have the difficulty of duality, and so we can choose either way. The angels are just programmed to like choose right and to be that one thing, and so it's just this pure energy, and they're just like emanating this pure energy, and so they're not like there's no ego. There's no like, oh, this way or that. They don't have a soul to correct. It's just, they're just spiritual energy, right? So the fact that like anytime we overcome darkness or our weakness or our self-defeating tendencies, anytime we can overcome darkness, it counts for so much more light than if that was just like, oh, we're just good natured. Like if we can overcome our failures, our like biggest mistakes, our like worst parts about ourselves, if we can like start transcending those just like little teeny mustard seeds at a time, that is like so much of a bigger deal, right? So like Jesus, there's so much debate about like, so Jesus referred to himself as the Son of Man, and he was a human being. But you're like, okay, well, like, and they say like Jesus was perfect, but like Jesus had all the same struggles that we did, and like, like, so what, like, does that mean like, and he did get angry and he did get mad and stuff, and so he was equally divine as he was human, and so are we. But maybe, just maybe, Jesus was like just a little bit better at it. I mean, like, he's apparently, to me, in my mind, like he kind of like was born like almost to the Christ level of consciousness. Like he was already ahead of the game, or at least like, I mean, all of his family, all the people around him were like, they were like big and like the priesthood and stuff. So he was like put into a family that was like poised and ready to like, nurture the Messiah. So when Jesus said, when he's like showing us all these miracles and things, and we're like, oh my God, that's so crazy. And he's like, you can do these things and better, by the way. And was he saying like, it's harder for you, so it's going to take mankind longer to get over all of this stuff? I mean, y'all, it was just a few years ago, we were like, okay, really, y'all have to stop raping women. And everybody was like, this is ridiculous. You're being a bitch. It's like, oh, we just want to can we just establish that, like, please don't, like, sexually harass us horribly while we're working, please, just, like, a decent workspace, and then, like, stop raping us. And everybody was like, well, this is just too much. These women, they're just out of control. So yeah, so as a human race, we really haven't gone that much further than, like, we were, like, tens of thousands of years ago. We're barely advanced, let alone 2,000 years ago when Christ was like, look, I've got it figured out. Just listen to me. Just entertain. Just hear me out. Just hear me out and just try. Just trying will do so much for you. And we're like, okay, murder my neighbor. Like, throw stones at the whore. Like, we have not gotten it. And we might be just starting to have a second awakening now. It's like Return of the Christ, like, let's try this again, people. So yeah, Christ is back, part 2. It's this reawakening, realizing, oh, okay, we totally misjudged what Christ consciousness was all about. Like, we've totally missed the point. Like, we haven't really been integrating this, and so we need to reboot, reset, restart, and we are. Trust that everything is playing out in your highest good, that there is a loving influence that wants you to bloom into your most beautiful life, but we have to overcome our darkness to get there. But as we overcome that, we get more and more superpowers, right? Because we have an angel sitting on our right shoulder that's trying to lead us towards the light. That's the side of mercy. And then we have an angel on our left shoulder that is trying to, that is basically our opponent, trying to strengthen us by showing us all our weaknesses and temptations and like foiling us and getting us into trouble. But it only serves to like make us into these like Mandalorians, So trust that it's all working out fine. One last card. Woo! 5 of Swords. So yeah, let go of this inner battle within yourself, within your mind. Like it's all in your mind. And the 5 of Swords can be like, I want to have this my way or the highway. And so then it's like everybody loses, like, look, she's got all the swords and like she won, but everybody's just like, this isn't even fun anymore, So allow that inner battle within you to dissipate surrender. Surrender the battle. And then all the other things will sort of just start like smoothing themselves out. You'll find harmony and peace when the battle's over. Find inner peace. Peace be with you. Hope, faith, and love. But above all, love. Good night.